Y'all, what is happening with Ubisoft? Because I don't know if we're going to have a Ubisoft next year. That's how bad things look like they're getting? How have the mighty fallen this much? Well, I have some theories on why we're here, but to just give you a brief outline of why we're here and what exactly we're talking about, Ubisoft since 2019 has seen a decline in their stonk. They are down more than 86% since 2019. And recently, their share prices have dropped by about 30% as well. So we are seeing a decline that has happened over the last few years, and then also more recently, more of a rapid decline. So what is happening with Ubisoft, and why are we seeing them crash so hard? They had that big game that came out, right? Star Wars Outlaws. People liked that. I liked that game. So what's going on? Well, Star Wars Outlaws, when we're talking about that game, and there's a few games really here that we're going to be discussing that I think are affecting what's happening with Ubisoft. But spoiler alert, I don't really think it's actually the games that are at fault here. I think there's something even bigger going on, something behind the scenes, something that you and I have each had to deal with. It's a little word that you know that starts with a G, a little 5-letter word that begins with G and ends with "ed," and it is greed. Greed is what we are seeing happen here, my friends, and it is bad. It is bad. It is so bad that it is affecting this company that is massive. I don't even know why Ubisoft is so massive, because I feel like Ubisoft, while they have put out some really solid games, I feel like they're way bigger of a studio than they should be based on what they've put out, basically. But I digress. We're here, they're one of the biggest studios, and they're plummeting. And they're plummeting in part because of Star Wars Outlaws. Star Wars Outlaws, when it was released, was pretty well received by critics, and it was also decently received by gamers. I feel like initially when it released, there was a lot of review bombing that was happening with this game, and it's since kind of more balanced out. So the reviews have been pretty good for Star Wars Outlaws. A lot of the people that I have watched play it have been enjoying it. I have personally enjoyed the game. So what happened? Where did it go wrong? Where did it disappoint people? And I think ultimately it's that Ubisoft spent too much money on this game and their projections were just too high. I think that the game has not sold well, not because of the game itself, although the game does have problems, I will admit. The game does have problems, but I think it's less to do with the quality of the gameplay and more to do with the way that this game was showcased before its launch. The game just had a lot of controversy based around the different versions that you could buy. And once again, they have a Seasons Pass model, and I think it turned a lot of people off to the point that people just didn't buy it. In fact, I even know a lot of the people in my streams who have watched me play, who have shown interest for the game based on what they're seeing, have even said, I think I'm gonna wait till it's on sale and then I'm gonna get it because it looks really good, but like, I'm just not going to get it right now because I don't think it's worth either the money or either because people just don't have those funds right now, which honestly, understandable. It is 2024. Consumers do not have a lot of disposable income right now, okay? I say this as someone who also doesn't have a lot of disposable income, and at the same time, a lot of my income goes back into my content, so I do buy things like this because I want to cover these games for you. So I spend a lot of money on my games just for my work, but at the same time, even I will be questioning. I mean, I remember when Alan Wake 2 came out, and I wanted the deluxe, but I was like, I don't know if I should spend that money. I don't know if I can afford it right now. So, you know, we all, I think, are in this together in the sense that we're all just struggling to pay our bills and get food and pay for housing. That in and of itself feels like an accomplishment. So when big gaming companies like Ubisoft come out and then present a game to you and say, hey, there's going to be the base, but also if you want, you know, this DLC, which also is like available day one. So then we're like, well, how's that DLC? Why didn't you just, it's ready. Why didn't you just put it in the game? If you want all these cosmetics day one, you're going to have to spend a bunch more money. A lot of people also are basing their projections for games off of pre-sales, and I just feel like when it comes to pre-orders, a lot of gamers are more hesitant to put their money there because they want to make sure that the game is actually good. And also, why should they put their money there when they have a sense that Ubisoft's games are famous for going on sale shortly after they're released? So a lot of people know this about Ubisoft and are just like, I'm just going to wait till it goes on sale because it'll probably be on sale soon. The other issue is that Ubisoft not only antagonized their customers with this, but Ubisoft also has this little thing called Ubisoft Connect. Ubisoft has their own launcher, okay? And this was probably one of my worst experiences playing this game, was just trying to start playing the game because I had to log into my Ubisoft Connect account in order to even play, because you have to have it connected to a Ubisoft Connect account. I really dislike the fact that people try to force us to do these things. I understand that people like Ubisoft and Epic, they want to have their own launchers and their own stores because they're trying to compete with Steam. And I actually don't think that's inherently a bad thing, because Steam definitely owns the market when it comes to being a game launcher, a game store. They are just undefeated. And when we put all our eggs in one basket, I think that's dangerous because it gives Steam all the power to decide what to do. Now, at this point, I don't think Steam is going to do something super evil, because in most instances that I've seen where Steam has made the news, they've been siding with their customers and been trying to just really approach it from a place of trying to help the gaming community at large. So I don't think they make a lot of choices that are based on greed. They have integrity. But at the same time, when you just give people all the power, there is that option for, if they decide to get greedy, it can be really bad. And then they control where a lot of the game sales are happening. So that would be bad for us as gamers. So I do want people to compete with them. But what I don't like is when companies say, let's compete with them by creating their own game launcher and make people have to use it. Because I'm like, no, don't make me have to use it. Make me want to use it. Give me things that I don't get on Steam that I want to enjoy on your launcher. Give me a reason why your launcher is better. When you aren't giving people a reason to come to your launcher, and the only reason that you're really giving them is like, you have to have it in order to get rewards that we've promised you, or just you have to have it to even run the game, it's so frustrating. It's so frustrating. And the fact that Ubisoft also does this thing where, like, I was playing Uno the other day. That's right, I own Uno. I was playing Uno the other day, and through Steam, and you have to link it to your Ubisoft account, and then it's like forever linked to that account. So that means if I wanted to play Uno and I was logged into a different account, I can't. It has to be the same account, which I get that that's probably to try to protect people from, like, you know, multiple accounts and people doing fraudulent stuff. But it just also feels like such a money grab. If I am logged into this other account, I would have to have technically a second copy of Uno because it's like permanently locked to something. It's greedy is what it feels like. And I think a lot of the problems that Ubisoft is running into right now is because of the greed. It's because they set themselves up to fail, because I think people were actually excited about the idea of Star Wars Outlaws. People thought it looked interesting. People were intrigued by it. Like I said, it is a fun game, and yet they shot themselves in the foot with the way they launched and marketed this game, and the way they just, like, we really need to make games that are accessible. And when you set your goals this high, it's like you're setting yourself up to fail. It's the same issue that people have with live service games, where everyone wants a live service game that everyone is playing, not realizing we only have so much time in a day to play a game and only so much money. So if we put all our money into microtransactions in one game, and then you're like, oh, but then we have this other game, like, you have to buy that too. I don't have the money now because you took all the money. It all went into this one game. And also, how many live service games can people really play at a time? So Ubisoft has now this issue where they have to deal with, you know, their shares are plummeting. They're dealing with an internal investigation into basically why they're failing as a company. And they decided to delay Assassin's Creed Shadows. So Assassin's Creed has been pushed back. This is also happening right as we're getting news about X-Defiant, which was another game that they just recently launched that is also underperforming. Now, the one thing is that X-Defiant was a smaller release, I think, than Star Wars Outlaws, so I think that it's less of an impact on their bottom line because there's just less money that they were expecting to make from it. But it's even to the point that it seems like they're considering like shutting the game down, although the game itself has said we're not getting shut down, that's not what's happening. So I don't want to spread any misinformation there, but it does sound like they need this season 3 to be a banger, otherwise they might be at risk of having that be an option that is going to be going through execs' minds of, you know, do we shut this down? Do we keep supporting this game? So I just feel like ultimately Ubisoft is in trouble because it's really losing a lot of money. It's hoping that the games that are coming out now are going to be its saviors after years of losing money and going down and down and down. Ubisoft was basically banking on Star Wars Outlaws and Assassin's Creed being these games that are going to lift them back up and allow them to recover. And it's just not happening, unfortunately. But this is what happens when you front load so much DLC and make these things that are add-ons feel like they should just be in the base game because they're already ready to go. People don't like that. It feels like you're just trying to squeeze all the money out of us. You know, you can make pre-order an option, but don't make it like you have to pre-order to play the game early, because that's just saying, you know, the people that spent more get to play this game at the date of release, which is the earliest date that it's available. That's really when it's being released. You're just telling other people they can't play that if they're not willing to pay more, and that sucks. And I mean, this is a game, Star Wars Outlaws obviously came out around the time of Black Myth Wukong, so it was compared a lot to Black Myth Wukong, even though they're two very different games from my understanding of the gameplay there. But people were saying, you know, it's different because with Black Myth Wukong, it's like an affordable game. The hilarious part of this to me is that these games are actually the same price. Star Wars Outlaws and Black Myth Wukong are basically the same price, but people think of Star Wars Outlaws as being more because when it was announced, those prices, they were saying, you know, there's these other editions that are over $100. And so people have that fixated in their mind that like the game, in order for me to get it day one, I'd have to spend more anyway. So people think of it as costing them more when really these games are like the same price. They're also very different. So I feel like it'd be very hard to compare them because they're doing very different things. But that's how warped it's gotten in people's minds of just how much this game costs. Because that's how it was pitched by Ubisoft. Ubisoft was like, do you want all the bells and whistles? Like, pay almost $200 Canadian. That's what I paid for my copy, and I got, you know, the most souped up version that I could. So that comes with everything. The DLC, the cosmetics, the Nyx goggles, I got it all. The other thing people have talked about is that there is some weirdness at Ubisoft in terms of the way that it's being run, and I can definitely see that just in the way that the games have been released and some of the weird choices they've made in gameplay, where we basically have these brothers that run Ubisoft and they have different focuses, and so they often run into these weird, like, well, I want to do it this way. Well, no, I want to do it this way. And then we get these weird compromise decisions that aren't really good for either side. So it's just weird to see how this is all played out. And I feel like it does come from some behind the scenes stuff that as we learn more and as this unfolds, I don't know how it's going to shake out at Ubisoft, but I think we might even see a complete restructuring of the company in order to try to salvage it, if it's even salvageable. I mean, I feel like they've fallen so far, I don't know. I think it's really all riding on Assassin's Creed at this point, which now they've pushed back to next year because they said they want to polish it and make it the best it can be. Ubisoft also recently did have a conference call, and on that conference call, their CEO, Yves Guillemot, basically said that when it comes to games and why they're not doing well, this is also a thing that makes me nervous because I feel like they don't really understand fully why games aren't doing well. But basically what the CEO said was, in today's challenging market and with gamers expecting extraordinary experiences, delivering solid quality is no longer enough. We must strive for excellence in all aspects of our work. This will enable the biggest entry in the Assassin's Creed franchise to fully deliver on its ambition, notably by fulfilling the promise of our dual protagonist adventure with Nao and Yasuke, bringing two very different gameplay styles. Something else that Guillemot has said, perhaps not related to that meeting, I'm not sure where directly this quote is from, but it comes to me from a Pocket Gamer, so this is an article that I read over there, where they said that the CEO said, although the tangible benefits of the company's transformation are taking longer than anticipated to materialize, we keep on our strategy focusing on two key verticals: open world adventures and GaaS native experiences, GASS, which is games as a service experiences, with the objective to drive growth, recurrence, and robust free cash flow generation in our business. I want to reaffirm that we are an entertainment-first company creating games for the broadest possible audience, and our goal is not to push any specific agenda. We remain committed to creating games for fans and players that everyone can enjoy. So some interesting things there are to take away are that basically they feel that Star Wars Outlaws didn't do as well, first and foremost, because gamers just expect more. I think it's also that when you put that price tag on it, you really have to deliver beyond, because otherwise people just aren't going to buy it. And here's the thing, I don't even think it's beyond. I think you just antagonized so many people. So people that were interested in buying it are just not even going to touch it now with a 10-foot pole. And that is the problem that we run into. And the other thing that I feel like is crazy with this is that they say, you know, even though things aren't going well, we're going to stick with our strategy. It's like, maybe don't stick with that strategy. And I feel like games as a service can be a problem. The fact that they feel like that's the key to getting that cash flow is, once again, it just feels like you really want to milk people of all the money they possibly have as gamers and think that that is sustainable. And it isn't. It really isn't. Microtransactions should be something extra. It shouldn't feel like it's a must-have. It shouldn't feel like I need to pay more to get the game on day one and that's a must-have. It's messed up is what it is. So Ubisoft has basically put themselves into this situation, and now they have to hopefully crawl out of this hole. I don't even know if it's doable with how far they've fallen, but I do feel bad because I just feel like Star Wars Outlaws at least was a really fun game. I think a lot of people worked really hard on that game, and it shows. And it's disappointing that there are people that just aren't playing it because of all this, but I get it, because Ubisoft is hurting themselves. Like, they really need to get out of their own way here and just focus on the actual games and showcasing that and not gouging people and hurting their wallets. You know, if you make something affordable and you make it good, people will buy it, and you will make so many sales that you'll probably make your money back and then some. So I don't understand. I do understand. It's greed. It's greed. It's great. I get it, but it's just disappointing to me. And it's unfortunate to see how far they've fallen when they have had a lot of great games in the past. Anyways, that's where we're at with this. I just wanted to give you a little update on what's going on with Ubisoft. I hope you enjoyed this video and found it informative. And, you know, let me know what you think of this. Why do you think Ubisoft is failing? Why do you think Star Wars Outlaws wasn't as much of a hit? Do you think it's the way it was marketed? Do you think it's something in the game? Do you just feel like, you know, this isn't a game that is like they said their goal is for everyone? I don't know. I personally enjoyed it and think a lot of people would like it. You know, who's to say why games fail? Also, do you think it could be because their projections were too high? 7.5 million units was what they were hoping to sell, and they lowered it to 5.5 million. 7.5 million is a lot. They may have expected too much. I don't know. Anyways, let me know your thoughts on it down in the comments. I'll talk to you down there. But until next time, friends, stay nerdy. Bye!